Okay.
And Anne, did you make Craig a co-presenter?
I sure did.
Okay, great, thanks. Hello, everybody joining. Welcome to the webinar. We're happy to see you, even though we can't see you, but happy you're here. We'll get started in a little bit. Welcome.
So I bet you got people joining from all over the country, maybe even all over North America, all over the world.
We are going to ask everyone to put in the chat, where are you zooming in from? Who are you, your name and where your organization and where you're from.
Oh,
Welcome, everybody. We'll get started in just a little bit. Welcome to the webinar. And please put your name in it. Well, actually, where you're calling in from, because your name is right there. Here we go. Thank you, Hilla from San Francisco Bay Area. Ooh, the Tallgrass Prairie. USDA. Hi, Laura. Hi, Susie from WWF Sweden. Welcome. We love working with WWF. Nice to see the Cincinnati Zoo. So many good people. We'll get started in a little bit. Welcome. People are still signing in. And we'll get started in another few minutes. We have a mad scientist from Ohio. Excellent. Nature Conservancy in Texas. What a great group. Hi, Maya. Nice to see all your names. And please put your where you're calling in from in the chat so we can see where everybody's coming from. We've got Maine, we've got Arizona, Penn State. Excellent. And we'll get started in just another minute. And Idaho and Oregon.
Can I offer a slight correction, Judy? Somebody said they're not really from Maine, but from the unceded territory of the Wabanaki people that today we call Maine.
Thank you, Craig.
It's fun to notice that.
Yes. Oh, a nice heart coming up. Excellent. Nebraska. I know on webinars, people usually come about a minute late, so 30 more seconds and we'll get started. We have a lot to cover. Hi, Asa from Inca. I think that went by so quickly. Hello, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Judy Browse. I'm the Executive Director of NAAEE, and I'm so happy that you could be here today to join us for the webinar. And we're really excited about the interest in this particular webinar because it's so important to the work we do. And we have just a wonderful speaker and topic, and we're talking about how to make better group decisions. And these are life skills that we're going to learn today about how to make better group decisions when we all are working together to try to come to a good place. And we're really excited that we have Craig Freshley with us. I'll introduce him more fully in just a minute, but we couldn't have a better presenter for this topic. He's fantastic and really thrilled that he could join us today. And he will be talking about how we can do a better job of coming together. Many of us work with groups and often we're stuck sometimes about how we make better decisions in a collaborative fashion. And we're going to learn a lot today, I know. And for those of you who are new to our webinars, we are always trying to bring new ideas, new thinking, wonderful speakers to help us all learn more and step out of our comfort zones and keep learning as we keep doing our work together. So excited to have the Forest Service as one of our partners. We have worked with the Forest Service, Rachel, I don't know, hundreds of years. It's been wonderful. This is part of our EE Inspire webinar series that is all about sparking innovation in environmental education. And Rachel, thank you for all you do and for being here. We love working with you. So I also want to thank our affiliate co-hosts who are helping to support our webinar series. And if you don't know who your affiliate is, please reach out and join them. They're doing the work at the state, regional, and provincial level to strengthen environmental education across North America. And I also want to thank our EE360 partners and collaborators and US EPA for this wonderful program that is helping to support these webinars. I know most of you know how to use Zoom, but not everybody. A lot of people use Teams. So all your lines are muted, but you can talk to us through the chat. You can use the drop down and send a message to everyone or specific people or the panelists. And we would love to hear your questions and your resources. Craig also has a Google Doc, and he'll talk more about that we'll be collecting your comments and ideas. And you'll get a copy of all of this, the recording and the presentation, as well as Craig's doc. So you'll get a lot of resources. So thank you for that, Craig, for setting that up. And we also have live captioning today for anybody that needs help with the audio. And thanks to our captioner, really happy about that. And I want to give a big thank you to my colleague, Anne Umali, for all her support in setting up the webinar. She is our webinar guru, does so much of the work of the webinar, and not only can help with the technical, she is our director of professional development, and she's the manager of EE360 Plus. So thank you, Anne, for all you do. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce Craig Freshley. I first met Craig actually when I was working at the National Audubon Society. I was looking for help with facilitation, and a colleague of Craig said, "You got to get Craig Freshley." So we did, and he was incredible. And this person was absolutely right that Craig is one of the most thoughtful and talented facilitators I've ever worked with. And he's not only a wonderful professional meeting facilitator, but he's also a great speaker, a trainer, an author. He's earned his reputation for helping groups work better together to get to a good outcome. In 2019, he won the American Civic Collaboration Award for creating and facilitating makeshift coffee houses where people from all backgrounds can listen and talk to each other to better understand where everybody is coming from. Craig also helped start a number of initiatives to make his city and state more sustainable, including Sustainable Maine and the Maine Downtown Center, and many more. He also ran a 1980s bike messenger service in Portland, Maine, which Ann and I thought was really interesting. Craig has facilitated more than 3,000 meetings and has worked with a wide range of clients like us. And he's focused on helping groups achieve efficiency, peace, and productivity. And he has written and produced hundreds of one-page good group tips and how-to videos that are free to his followers. He's also written several books, including the one that we're seeing here about how to make good group decisions. Craig started Good Group Decisions in 2003 and has been going strong ever since. And I just want to mention that 1% of all his gross revenues are donated to charity. He walks the talk. So thank you, Craig. And let's give Craig a warm virtual welcome. Take it away, Craig.
Oh, great. Oh, thanks. And here come the hands. That's so nice of you, Judy. You always do such a nice job with these things. I've worked with you over the years, and I've seen you introduce many people, and it's nice to have the benefit of your introduction. Yeah, so I just had this book published, and Judy asked me to tell you about everything that's in here in 1 hour. We have a lot to cover, folks. Thankfully, we asked your opinion in advance about what you most want to learn. So that narrows it down quite a bit. Still, there's so much that I want to talk with you about over the next hour. So let's get going. I hope you have your seatbelt fastened. I hope that you have your handy pen and paper or notepad nearby. Let's jump in right into the chat here. I've pasted a little agenda. I'm already modeling collaboration and facilitation techniques, letting you know exactly what to expect. So we're going to begin with just a little bit of theory, and then I'm going to explain some practical tools. I'm going to explain things that I think you most want to learn. I took a good look at all the advance input. Let me see, how many of you wrote in advance? Probably, I think we had 32 comments in advance of questions and topics. So I've tried to distill that and give you what you want most, but then I want to ask you, what are your ideas for techniques and solutions? And we're going to take your questions. Near the end, I'm going to share with you some resources, and we're going to end at the very end with the benefits. Why are we doing collaborative decision making? Because it's harder. It's harder than just locking yourself in a room all by yourself with the door closed and deciding whatever you want. Here's some guidelines. I'm asking you to make an investment in this webinar, right? And I am going to give you a document that has all my notes, and it has links to other resources. And it's a document that you all have editing privileges. I'm asking you to put in your own resources. There's a lot for you to look up later. So while we're here on the spot, I'm hoping that you can bring your best listening. For a good part of this webinar, I'm not going to be showing PowerPoint slides. I'm not going to be doing screen share. I'm going to talk to you directly. Try to apply this stuff, right? It's very easy to let this theory go over your head. I'm hoping that you're pushing yourself to think about real life situations. Ask questions in writing. As Judy said, you can put them right in the chat. But if you want to share solutions, raise a hand or put in the chat that you'd like to come on video, because I'm imagining this is going to be a lot more interesting if you folks hear from more than just me over the next hour. I'm inviting some folks to step up onto the camera. And here's a little heads up. In particular, I'm going to be inviting your thoughts about how to collaborate in virtual environments. That's one that I think we can all share some techniques on. All right, let's jump right into the first topic here. I think that there are basically four. Well, let me start with a little screen share. Before I do that, let me screen share because I said I would start with some theory. So here goes. Let's queue up that first of all, collaborative decision making is just one kind of decision making. There are many ways to make group decisions. And I have put on the screen here for you, if you will, a spectrum from one decider, a person all by themselves, majority rule, where most of the people are deciding for all of us, to everybody decide. You might call that consensus decision making or all agree. And you can see that these different types of decision making have, in my view, different applications. And I think that a huge source of group inefficiency is applying the wrong method. Not every decision needs to be collaborative. I've got this theory that when you're planning, collaboration works well. When you're so for instance, the United States Senate deciding foreign policy is trying to maximize all views, or at least going with majority rule. But the military unit on the field of battle implementing foreign policy is one decider, right? There's a chain of command, somebody's in charge, implementation. You can see the other gradients: length of impact, width of impact, and how much time you have to decide, right? Collaboration takes more time than the other types of decision making. Let me show you another graphic. I'm going to share with these, share these graphics with you afterwards also. But this is the quick overview. I call it the tree of collaboration. And you can see it's different from the chain of command, right? The links rattle, they're not completely connected. Whereas with the tree of collaboration, all parts are connected and alive. The same sap runs through the whole tree. And, you know, when it comes to the trunk, an organization's mission, values, vision, those things are best decided, in my view, by more collaborative processes. The small branches, you might think of those as divisions, agencies, and then we get out to the twigs and the leaves, smaller teams and individuals. It's perfectly acceptable for individuals with the proper authority to make decisions all by themselves because they're connected to the trunk. They're the same sap, the same values flows through the whole tree. But collaborative decision-making is not easy. It is harder, it's more timely than other decisions, and it should be reserved, in my opinion, for what we might call the special circumstances, where the width and breadth of impact is going to be the biggest. Let me show you here what I heard you say in advance. You made 32 different comments, as I explained, what you'd like to hear in today's webinar. And this is my summary of what I figure are the top comments, how to make sure all voices are valued and heard, etc. You can read these. I've got more to show you. These are all the comments that you've made, and I'm going to try to cover a lot of these things right up front. I don't expect you to read all these in real time. I'm showing you that I captured all your comments, I grouped them, and I paid attention. There are some things that I'm not going to be able to cover up front, but that I'm hoping we get to cover in the second part of the webinar. And in a few minutes, I'm going to be sharing with you this very document, and you'll have a chance to answer these questions or address some of these comments with each other. So what I did is I took the top comments, or what I'm considering the themes among what you said, and I have narrowed down to 4 top tools that I want to share with you right off the bat. Here they are, the 4 top tools. Compelling cause, clear expectations and roles, help people be heard, and attitude matters. Now, I'm going to be talking from some notes. I'm going to explain to you at least these top tools before I invite your participation. And I wondered if should I give them the notes now or should I wait till later? And I've decided I'm going to give you the notes right now. You can follow along if you want, but this is a personal choice, right? You can invest in listening now or learning later or both. I'm going to talk as if I'm not sharing these notes. You might want to follow along, as I said, or you might just want to focus on me. But here you go. There's a URL right in the chat, and I imagine several of you are visiting that right now, and you can even follow some links and learn more stuff as I'm talking. But let me just jump in and tell you what I think are the most useful tools for you, the environmental educators that are part of this webinar. Number 1, compelling cause. People join causes, not committees. Getting the cause right, I believe, is one of the most important tools for collaboration. What's one of the most common complaints about collaborative decisions or collaborative meetings? We get off track. Well, to stay on track, you got to have a track. You need to have that guiding star, the purpose for the meeting. I believe that it is worth the investment of figuring out and writing down the problem to be solved or the question to be answered. I'm going to say that again. The problem to be solved or the question to be answered. What's the reason that we're here? Try to articulate that and do so in a language that works for the people that you're talking to. We'll get to that in a few minutes about making a welcoming environment and helping people feel comfortable. But call it a compelling cause, call it a value proposition or a vision statement. It's critical not only to bring people together, but to hold people together. And it works especially well when we're dealing with people who have different views. Judy mentioned I won this national award for my makeshift coffee houses, as we called them, we brought Democrats and Republicans together during the time when President Trump was president, and there was a lot of disagreement. But one of our principles was that even if we don't have things in common, we can want things in common. And whether you're talking about Democrats or Republicans or any types of differing views, even when we feel like we don't share things right now, if you can pick that common cause of what you want, a common goal, it can be super helpful. I've given you a little link here to a video, and there's many more resources. I've written a statement here in the notes that says, a problem well-defined is half solved. And I truly believe this because I have seen so many people come up with great collaborative solutions to the wrong problem. So it's a good investment. And if you want to really get investment in collaborative decision-making, I'm going to tell the story of the 4 bricklayers. I'm walking along the road and I come across 4 bricklayers. I ask the first bricklayer, hey, what are you doing? And he says, I'm laying a brick. I ask the second bricklayer, hey, what are you doing? She says, oh, I'm building a wall. I ask the third bricklayer, hey, what are you doing? He says, oh, this is so cool. I'm helping build a cathedral. I asked the fourth bricklayer, hey, what are you doing? And she says, I'm using my gifts to serve God. Each of these 4 bricklayers has a different view of what their compelling cause is. And we can imagine that the bricklayer who has that higher calling is the bricklayer who's going to be most engaged and most enthusiastic about giving to the group. Compelling cause, not to be underestimated. Number 2, clear expectations and roles. This is an investment in conflict prevention. I have come to believe that as much as 90% of all conflicts are the result of misunderstanding, mismatched expectations. How many times have we seen agreements resolved, disagreements resolved with the words, oh, I didn't know that, or, oh, I didn't realize. So again, this is like establishing a problem statement or a key question. This is an investment up front. If you're asking people to play an advisory role from the beginning, tell them they're playing an advisory role. If you're asking somebody to be a decider, tell them. You can't over communicate your expectations for how people are going to participate in the collaborative process. The most common complaint next to, oh, I didn't know what we were supposed to be doing is, well, you asked our opinion, but you didn't listen to us. Right? That's another very common complaint we hear about collaborative decision-making. So the way you fix that is you say up front that here's how your input is going to be used. Here's the role we're expecting you to play. Actually, the decision is going to be decided in this way by these people at this time, and we'll tell you how it played out, right? Get back to them. I was in a meeting once where a traffic engineer explained that most fatal accidents are caused by some sort of lane change. It's when people change lanes unexpectedly that accidents happen. You want to avoid wrecks? Stay in your lane. If you want to stay in your lane, you need to have a lane. Knowing what my role is and how I'm supposed to play it is critical. There's a reference in the notes to our famous football coach here in New England, Bill Belichick, who was famous for telling his players, do your job. That's what he expected, everybody to know their job and stay in their lane. Help people be heard. This is another critical tool, basket of tools, if you will, for collaborative decision-making. First of all, create a welcome environment, right? For people to participate, they have to feel or know or strongly suspect that they're going to feel respected. Not only do they want to know about what's going to happen when, how the thing is going to go, but they want to know that they're not going to be disrespected, that they're not going to be shut down. And I've written quite a lot. You can find it on my website or in the book on how to show respect. There are many simple ways that we can show respect and put people at ease. And I think that these are steps worth taking. Get people's names right. Get people's pronouns correct. Ask them, you know what, you're going to get it wrong. You will pronounce people's names wrong. You might stumble on pronouns. But if you make an effort, you will garner respect and you will give people a sense of security. How you dress, how you act. Facilitator credibility matters. It's taken me a long time to realize how important that is. When people come into a meeting, having faith that it's going to be well run, having faith that whoever's running the meeting is going to be looking out for them and their interests, it helps a lot with their, first of all, showing up and their contributions. You can ask for input in many ways. You know, not everybody is of the disposition or the personality type where they're just going to raise their hand and speak in public. So if you want true collaboration, you have to provide many channels for input. If you're in the middle of the meeting, give people a heads up about a question that's coming. I did this a little bit early on in the webinar where I told you we're going to be asking for volunteers, particularly to share your thoughts and ideas about virtual facilitation. I'm preparing you in advance. And you know what? If you mess up or make a mistake, or if you don't know what to do, just say it. Oops, I made a mistake there, or well, hold on a minute. I'm not quite sure where we are in the agenda. Let me just find my place. Go ahead and do it. You're human. If you demonstrate your humanness and your fallibility, and if you demonstrate humility in front of the people you're leading, it garners respect and it helps people feel safe. Oh, there's some tips there about room setup and agenda access. I'll leave you to those. It's super helpful if you can reflect back what you hear people saying. You can do it right in the moment. It's not a skill that everyone has, but if you have that skill, it's super helpful. Write the words. Ask the group to just wait a minute while I write the words that reflect, maybe it's what the group is agreeing to or reflect what people are saying. You're going to see me do this a little bit later in the webinar. You've seen other facilitators do this. If you can show people that they've been heard, it helps a lot. It helps put them at ease. Actually, I did it once already where I just flashed in front of you all of your comments. Those who made comments in advance had a sense that, hey, this guy listened to what I had to say. Sometimes you have somebody who is heard a little bit too much, right? This is something that several of you mentioned, and it's another common complaint in collaborative decision-making. Somebody takes over. Well, hopefully you've put in some of those prevention measures, right? You've got guidelines, you've got clear expectations, you've established yourself as the facilitator and other things. But when you have that person who just has a lot to say and is talking in circles, they're saying the same thing over with better words, or I'm repeating what that other person said, but I'm just saying it better, you know, with my words. Always make it about wanting to hear from other people. Really, in my head, I'm thinking, I got to stop this guy from talking. And it's usually a guy, but I don't say to that guy, hey, just stop talking. Instead, I validate what I hear him saying. I reflect back to him what I've heard him say. I want to be that person's friend. I want him to think that I'm on his side too. And I really am. I want him to be heard, but it can't be all about him. I reflect, I validate, and then I say, we want to hear from others. It's not about shutting you down. It's about wanting to hear from others. And I move on and I hear from others. Now, others have to help me by raising a hand, right? I got to have other hands to go to, or I got to have a next thing on the agenda. Another way that you can help people be heard is to draw conclusions. Actually write them down. This is another complaint of collaborative decision-making and bad meetings. We all got together and we met, and the leader said it was going to be all collaborative and consensus-y, but you know what? It was just a bunch of process and nothing got done. It's the skilled facilitator that takes that extra step and writes down a conclusion. Now, you might not have come to that kumbaya moment where you have the conclusion, but you can write down something. At least write down next steps. At least write down what you did agree to, and what the issues are that are outstanding. You can come up with some sort of product. Last year, attitude matters. And there's some key attitudes that I'm going to highlight. First of all is what we might call a group first attitude. I want to solve our problem, not just my problem. True collaborative decision making stems from a mindset that we are all in this together. It's not just about what I want to get from the group. It's about what I want to give to the group. Curiosity is a great tool to help you deal with that person that you're afraid of or that you don't agree with. You know what? I can be curious about your beliefs without having to change my beliefs. I can ask you questions. I can simply be in a framework of curiosity, and that can help me be in the room with somebody that I might otherwise have a problem with. There are some things in the notes about humility. Again, demonstrating humility will help others be more collaborative. I came across a sign one time in a meeting room: no one is smarter than all of us. And that too is an attitude that really helps. Last one here, folks, patience. As I showed you in that opening diagram, collaboration is the hardest type of decision making. It's not going to be done right away. I learned from a facilitator who taught us the rule of 3. If you want truly collaborative decision making, touch the topic at least 3 times. First time, introduce it. Second time, brainstorm, trade, share solutions. Third time, make a decision. That's the bare minimum. Do not expect to bring a topic, a problem to be solved, or a question to be answered into a meeting for the very first time and arrive at a collaborative decision. Sometimes it happens. I'm not saying it doesn't, but more often than not, it takes patience. And if you can accept that right from the beginning, it's going to help you find peace in the midst of collaborative decision making, which can be infuriating. There's this African proverb that I quote in the book. I'm sure many of you have heard it. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. Collaborative decision making is not for making fast decisions, and things get left undone. Things don't get decided right away. But for you environmental educators, I'm reminding you that nature, Mother Nature, the very greatest creator of all, is the most fantastic collaborative decision maker I know. And nature moves in teeny, teeny increments. Nature is always patient. Things are always left done. Things are always in progress. It's always messy, and that's okay. And that's the way it has to be with collaborative decision making. And if you can accept that, it will help you a lot. Okay, thanks for listening to my top 4 things that I thought would be most helpful to share with you. But now let me invite some of you to share what you've learned. One topic that came up in advance was, Craig, how do we facilitate collaborative decision-making in a virtual environment? And I know a lot about facilitating collaboration in virtual environments. I'm doing it a little bit right now. I'm making use of the Google Doc, but there are many techniques. And if there are one or more among you that would like to share something that you've learned, I'm not just looking for a collaborative software. I'm looking for how to apply these things that I just talked about in a virtual environment. If you would like to step forward and tell us who you are and bring your technique to the group, we want to hear from you. Is there anybody that would like to join me here on the stage and share your practical technique for virtual collaboration? Anybody? Anne's going to promote you to a panelist if you put a hand up.
I see someone so far. Just a second.
Yeah,
Ryan,
can
are
we?
you here from Earth Force?
My name is even written wrong. Sorry about that.
Hello there.
Hi, how are you doing?
Hi, thanks for joining us. Can you tell us how to pronounce your name and who's you're with and what's your thing?
Yes, my name is Raisa Yurivilka, but most people call me Rai, like rye bread. Like, so yeah, I'm from Earth Force. Here from Conroe, Texas, and I just want to share something that we usually do with educators and young people when they are deciding on an environmental project to do in their schools. It's what we call like kind of like criteria-based decision making. And for example, if they are going to make a project about, I don't know, I'll just say something random, recycling, you know, we kind of like use certain criteria, you know, to make decisions. For example, it needs to be within this budget, you know, so that's kind of like one criteria. It needs to be done in this specific time frame, so that's another criteria. So based on those criteria, it's kind of like the kids and the educators vote, and then a decision is made on, you know, on the project, how it's going to be implemented, who is going to do what, you know. But yeah, it's an interesting approach. I can share that resource, I guess, but it's kind of like different because we kind of like set up the expectations up front, you know, hey, we only have this budget, you know, we only have this amount of time to do this. So we kind of like work using that criteria to decide on what to do.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to share.
I'm really glad you talked about that. I want to give one reflection and then ask you a question. The great thing about establishing criteria first is that you level the playing field, if you will. Everybody sets aside their interests. I might come in thinking what I really want the budget to be or what I really want the timeline to be. But if we establish the criteria first, before we get into the hard part of decision making, right? You're nodding. Once we get into the hard part of decision making, we can fall back on the criteria. We can say, well, look, folks, we decided on these criteria, and it's a more quantitative way, if you will, to make a decision rather than based on the opinions or the anecdotes of those present. So I'm really glad you mentioned that. I see that there's somebody who's put in a resource, and we welcome other resources. You can drop them into the Google Doc, or you can put them in here in the chat. We'll put them in there later. But I do want to ask you, Rai.
Yes.
Are there ways that you have figured out how to do this in a virtual environment? Does setting up criteria in advance apply? You can do that on Zoom too, right?
Yes, actually, we used to do it in person, you know, using, of course, like sheets, you know, on the, but now we moved into this virtual environment, which is like a little bit different, but we kind of like also have like this kind of preset Excel document in which we write the criteria on one side, or we have another tool that we actually use. It's called dot storming, and I think it's a really good way that you put the criteria there and people can vote online, like with hearts, you know, as like, hey, we want this criteria, and then you just select the top criteria that you want to focus on when you're thinking about your project. But yeah, I think there are many online tools that we can use. There is We just, if people is willing to be on cameras and, and you want them to participate in there, we just use, thumbs up and thumbs down. But there are, yeah, so there are different tools that we kind of use with young people and educators.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm really glad you stepped up. You were the first one. We all appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, before we go to all kinds of questions, is there anyone else who would like to share a particular tool or resource for collaborating in a virtual environment? I see we've got two people raise their hands. If we got to be careful not to take too much, but if you want to promote them both, Anne, that would be fine, or you get to choose.
All right, we've got Jennifer joining as a panelist. If you want to say hi.
Yes, hi, Craig, hi, everyone. Yeah, I'll just go ahead, I guess. I'll be quick. So I'm with the Rhode Island affiliate, and I do a lot of facilitation in my day job. And one of the things I found that is kind of nice about virtual platforms and Zoom, et cetera, is sort of the polling feature and getting a pulse of how people feel. So using the 1 through 5 or 1 through 3 rating, where 1 is like, you're absolutely not on board. And of course, you could do it throughout the decision-making process, but it's like, or you're feeling really not okay about this and don't want to move forward as it is. And then, 2 or 3 are, I'm generally in favor, but I have some questions, and 4 or 5, are, I'm good with it. So it's like a really nice way to just get the pulse, and then sometimes even make a final decision. I find that polls are easier virtually than in person. And so.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you brought that. I'm going to give a quick response and then let you follow up if you want to. Zoom has an in-house polling capacity, but there's other ways to do it too. Something that I'm fond of doing is set up a survey monkey, literally, or there's many online Google has a survey feature. Even though you're in a meeting, do an instant in-meeting survey. And sometimes it works really well that only the administrator can see the results. This is the thing about Zoom polling or one of the surveys, because if we can all see each other's results, like in a Google Doc, what we're working in right now, it can influence our results. But there's something magical about each person considering the question all by themselves in a room with the door closed, and then the facilitator reveals the results all at once, right? Because that person has the admin keys to the instant poll or whatever. Another thing that you can do, sometimes I use a ground rule that says, show what you think. You don't have to just wait for your turn, raise a hand and speak out. If there's somebody else who said something that you agree with, give us a thumbs up, or give us a thumbs down, or I don't know about that. But I'll tell you, a group that is not afraid to give instant feedback can be highly efficient. Most people, especially if they're new to a group, are afraid to vote. It can be like pulling teeth to get people to even do a straw poll. But if a group can get comfortable with immediate straw polls, even facial expressions, showing each other how they feel in the moment, it can move a group forward leaps and bounds. And those tools work really well in a virtual environment. I'm really glad you brought that, Jennifer. Is there anything else you want to say about polling in a virtual environment?
No, I think I use poll everywhere. I've done it both ways, where I just do quick polls in Zoom, but then also have an outside polling source because I like the functionality. And somebody else had said Mentimeter. There's like so many things out there. So yeah, I love the multiple options.
Great. Thank you very much, Jennifer. We're going to ask you to take a seat. And just the last thing I'll say about polling, and it goes back to something I said near the top of the hour about expectations, right? Well, you asked us what we thought, and then you didn't listen to us. So if you do some kind of a poll, tell people exactly how the data is going to be used. And oftentimes I'm fond of saying, we're not making a final decision here, folks. It's a straw poll. I just want to get a quick read of the room. And oftentimes the purpose of an instant straw poll, the real purpose is to help me, the facilitator, know what to talk about next. It helps us, the group, to know where the energy is and what we should spend time on. That's all. Don't hold each other to a vote. Give each other permission to change your mind. That's also a key component, right, of collaborative decision making, is open-mindedness and allowing each other to change our minds. That can take the edge off the anxiety of people having to actually vote for one thing or another. Okay, you've got the notes. I'm going to put them in the chat again because I know that anybody who has joined the webinar since I put the URL in the chat last time, it doesn't have the benefit of seeing it. There's your URL. We're taking notes, folks. And I'm going to screen share because I want to share with you exactly where we are in the notes and encourage you to interact with this document. So where are they? Yeah, this is it, I hope. Yeah. I'm screen sharing the document that I gave you the URL to, and we're up to this place here. Down below is Craig's notes, but a little farther up in the document, here's what you said you wanted to learn about. And if you don't think that I have covered these topics, I would like you to write your question into the chat if you still have a question. If you think you have an answer to one of these topics that we've already covered or that we haven't covered, you are allowed to write your answer right into this document. You'll be helping each other. We've talked about some of these things, but there's many other topics here, and we don't have time to talk about them. So you can ask a question in the chat. You can answer a question by writing into this document. I'm simply calling your attention to that. And as you can see, I'm taking notes down here below for your benefit. And I'm reflecting back to you that I'm paying attention and listening to what you're saying. We do have a question here. Is it okay to share the Google Doc notes with someone who is not attending? You bet it is. Please, the purpose here, and I know it's in the spirit of NAAEE, is to share learning. The more that more of us can do this, the better. What if a participant shares unsubstantiated or false information? Great question. This came up in advance as well. Well, first of all, it depends on my role. If I am the facilitator and neutrality is important, which it often is in collaborative decision-making, I might not challenge that. I would be very hesitant to correct a person, even if I personally know it's factually incorrect. What I might do is say, is that a thing? Is that a fact? Do others agree with that? And I would put it back to the group, and I would put it on others. If I'm not the facilitator, and somebody says something that I believe is simply not correct, I have a choice. You know, I can keep my head down and do nothing. I could address the person later. Maybe I don't want to publicly embarrass them, or I could speak up in the meeting. One thing I might do if I do speak up, here I've got two choices. One choice is to confront the person and say, I'm sorry, that's not true. But you know what? That's confrontational, and now we're probably in an argument. But sometimes that is absolutely warranted. I'm not dissuading you from that. But I am reminding you that you have another choice. And your other choice is to raise a hand and say, can you tell us more about that and why you believe what you believe? In other words, start with a question. And if you start with a question, you are more likely to out any assumptions, any misunderstandings misconceptions, et cetera. And you're also winning over that person and making them not an enemy, but an ally. If you start with a question, can you tell us more about that, or where you got that information? It may be that you go through those steps and the person is still just like spewing stuff that's factually incorrect. And I have come to a place where I have decided not to argue with people about the facts. I think we have to accept, in this world of political divide and in this world of the internet, where somebody can find words to back up anything they want to say, we've got to figure out how to move forward with multiple truths. Okay, I get that that's true for you. Here's what's true for me. Let's find a solution that works for both of us. It sounds radical, but if you truly want to make forward progress and collaborate, I'm pushing you to try to find a solution that accommodates multiple truths, even if you know darn well that one of them is not true. Because you know what? That person believes that that's true. And if I push on this notion of, well, prove it, I'm not going to take a step further. We got to establish the facts first. You won't take any steps further. That's the place where we're at. If we rely on needing to establish the facts before moving forward, we have little chance of moving forward, people. So we have got to come up with solutions that accommodate multiple truths. What can be done to solve that problem or answer that question, to build that cathedral? What can be done, even though you have a different truth than I have? That's how I've come to try to deal with people that say things that don't seem like they're true. Hey, let's bring another question. We can pick one off the list. I'm happy to do that. But if somebody wants to add one here, I'm going to read this out loud from Adrian. Beyond making sure all voices are heard and having a process that leads to a strong, well-supported collaborative decision, what are some techniques to help us make the right decision? Well, right decision is a subjective term, Adrian. I wonder if you might be willing to come on camera and tell us a little bit more about what you mean. If you're not willing to do that, it's totally fine. But this is a case where to answer and engage with this person, I need to better understand what they mean. And before trying to assume what they mean, I'm taking a step here to see if Adrian will join me on the screen. Are you there? There you are. There he is, or she is. Tell us, what do you mean more? Tell us a little bit more about what you're asking here.
Hold on, let me fix the volume here. I guess I'm reacting to so many years and so many experiences of being in groups and being very aware of the intense dynamics that can happen. And very often I've seen a group get really excited about something, about some solution, and there's real support there. But I and others are thinking silently, we didn't really think this through. We didn't really weigh the evidence. We didn't really weigh the possibilities, but we all support it. So that's what I'm reacting to.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. How do we really decide, well, the truth, as it were, or what's really the most valuable?
Right. Got it. Thank you so much for coming on camera and explaining that. First of all, I'm going to remind us of some of the prevention things and some of the setup stuff that ideally we want to have in place before we even get started. We want to know what is the problem or the question or the cause or whatever. And that will help us know if we're making a right decision. Did we solve that problem that we set out to solve? And in fact, it helps if you ask people in the beginning, how will we know if we're successful in this process or in this meeting? But I also want to point out that you're never especially in the field of environmental decision-making, you're never going to have all of the information that you'd like to have to make policy decisions. And we always have to make decisions with incomplete information. Again, it's a characteristic of our world. And I want to point out to you a diagram from my book. Here's an old school method. Okay, so this says that sometimes you can make decisions by logic, but sometimes you got to make decisions with your gut. Call it instinct, call it faith. And people are of different temperaments. Some are very logical and some are very faithful. Fair enough. But my point is that there's always a mix. Even the most logical scientific thinker is going to have to take a leap of faith right at the end. And even the person who wants to go just from the gut is going to have to accept some semblance of fact or science. The best decisions are a mix of both. So I guess my answer to your question, Adrian, is be as specific as possible at the very outset about what a right decision would look like, and then get as far as you can with the time and the resources that you have. I'm going to say one more thing. Don't decide any further than you absolutely need to. This is another fault of many group decision-making processes. We want to have it all wrapped up. And remember how I told you earlier about expect messiness. Do not decide anything more than you absolutely have to. Don't ask, what's the most we can decide in this meeting? Instead, ask, what's the least we can decide in this meeting, but still make forward progress? So thanks for bringing that question. We are running dangerously short on time. I'm going to see if there's one more question maybe here. Somebody said that's a great question. I want to go back up and see if I can find it.
It was, do you have brainstorming exercises that you like rather than a free flow conversation, from Hilla?
Great. Okay. Thank you so much, Judy. I'd love to answer that. For starters, it makes a lot of sense to be deliberate about brainstorming. Free flow conversation is going to favor the fastest thinkers and the most dominant personalities. And I don't mind saying again, oftentimes that's going to be men or people who have, for one reason or another, more power in the room than others. So free flow of conversation is actually not the best method for brainstorming, especially if you want collaborative decisions. Set up a system that levels the playing field. One is a talking stick or a round robin, where you let every person have a statement. Make up an order that's perhaps somewhat arbitrary, but give everybody equal time regardless of the order. Second is you can ask for input in writing. You can ask people to write ideas, quiet time. This will favor the introverts and the slower thinkers. Just because you're a slower thinker doesn't mean you're a bad thinker. Give people a chance to write their ideas in silence and then put them all up on the wall. It levels the playing field. Organize them on the wall. You can ask people to submit comments in writing in the room on a piece of paper, tabulate them during a break, and then reflect back later what they've said. Don't be seduced into thinking that you're making a good decision by making a fast decision. If you want a truly good collaborative decision, take time to employ techniques that give everybody equal voice. We're about out of time, folks, and I don't want to go late. So I'm going to screen share one last time because I want to share with you some resources. Right here at the bottom of the Google Doc are what I've called resources for collaborative decision making. And I want you to know that I have posted 407 different items. They are videos, they're one-page tips, they're handouts, and they're all there for you for free. And I hope you avail yourselves of those. I publish a newsletter every couple weeks or at least once a month. You can sign up to receive that for free. And you can also look at all past issues of my newsletter at my website or free. There's the book, of course. I'd be honored if you bought the book. That's probably the best way to go more in depth on any of these things. Lastly, I want to tell you that I do a free training talk show once a month, and next up is pronouns. Getting pronouns right, or at least making an effort, is so important to foster inclusion and respect that I'm focusing on it next week. You can sign up for free Wednesday, February 22nd at 1 o'clock. Drop me a line if you have further questions or comments, and look at this right here in that Google Doc. I'm inviting you to drop your own resources. I trust that Anne is going to scoop the things up out of the chat and put them into this document. We'll provide for you a link later. Lastly, the benefits. We shouldn't do collaborative decision-making just because it's the right thing to do, but because it's the best thing to do. It's the way that we make good group decisions. I've told you earlier that collaborative decision-making need not be applied to every decision that a group has to make. But for the big ones, for the ones that are going to last a long time or have a wide or meaningful impact, invest in making the very best decisions possible. Collaboration is worth the investment. When we create an environment where all the stakeholders share their information and their opinions, when all the stakeholders are encouraged to share their best thinking, the benefits are extraordinary. We get to hear great ideas that we otherwise would have missed. We're more likely to reveal unintended consequences. We're more likely to come up with innovative breakthroughs. A collaborative decision is more likely to be actually implemented. It's more likely to last because a larger number of people understand it and believe in it. I can sit in a room all by myself and I can make the very best decisions that I can imagine. But when I invite others into that room with me, when I invite others to collaborate with me, we can make decisions beyond our wildest imaginations. Thank you very much.
Great
Craig.
job, Craig. Excellent. Go ahead, Anne, your turn.
I was going to just thank you. So much love for you in the chat, Craig. And oh my goodness, you've given us so much, me included, so much to think about. And 407 resources. That is incredible. And I really love what you said about no one is smarter than all of us. And I think we can come up with an additional 407 resources to add to that list that you gave us. And just wanted to close the webinar today with a few announcements and reminders. Again, all of you will be getting the webinar recording and the notes, this wonderful Google Doc of resources that Craig shared with us. You'll all be getting that to your emails by the end of the week. We'll also be posting it to EE Pro at the same place you went to sign up for this webinar. So you've been there before, so head over there, you'll get the recording and the notes at the same place. And if you haven't already checked out the new EE Pro, please do it. It is so cool. So many new features. It's easier to share resources. It's easier to find resources. There's a fun new interface. You can use avatars for your profiles. There's a lot more to discover. So while you're there checking out webinars, check out the new EE Pro while you're there. And also while you're there, you can peruse all the EE webinars that we've been doing for many, many years now. I don't know what the count is now. It might be in the hundreds of all the different webinars that we've done. You'll see all the recordings and the notes at EE webinars under Learning at EE Pro. And if you want to hear the latest of what's going on at NAAE, including our latest webinar, follow us on all the social media channels, including Instagram, LinkedIn. Sign up for EE News, and you'll get all the latest info direct to your emails. And speaking of social media, I want to preview our very next webinar coming up March 22nd by our very own Jimena Cuenca and Carrie Albright, doing a session on social media. More than a like, how to build your social media strategy. And They're going to be talking all about how to incorporate social media strategy into the work that you do, all the different ways that you can do that in your communications, how to build storytelling into your social media, and also what are the tools that you can use? What are some free and low-cost tools that you can use to measure impact? So mark your calendars. It's going to be March 22nd, and we're going to start promoting and taking registrations by early next week. All right, and that's all we've got today. Thanks again for joining us. Thank you, Craig, for a wonderful hour. Thank you, Jennifer, Rye, Adrian, all of our volunteers for sharing your experiences with us. Hope to see you on another webinar very soon. So take care, everybody, and we'll see you soon. Thanks again, Craig. Bye, y'all. Okay, thank you.